Everybody, Jake here, and it's been a while since the last did a podcast, because, schedule's been conflicting, but basically, with me is my good friend Dave, and newcomer to the channel is Jordan Paris.
Thank you. It's what an honor it is to be two great podcast historians for several months, I believe, maybe even a year, but I'm very honored to be on here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Your words flatter me, sir.
Thank you.
Glad to have you.
I do not deserve the praise with my unprofessionalism, but I'll take it.
It's a style.
It'll get me through the holidays.
It's improv podcasting.
Yes.
At its finest.
Yeah, it's gonna create a revolution
Too
of
kind, sir.
podcast genres. But anyways, in this
Can't believe we
podcast,
haven't done this yet.
yeah, I am a little
It's taken
surprised.
this long since you started your channel.
Yeah.
Save the best for last.
Jordan
It's
on here.
towards the end of the year. Got to save the best for the last.
Yeah, exactly.
We do have another upcoming podcast.
Oh yeah, a music podcast.
It's definitely raised our level of professionalism.
Oh yeah, like we actually have planned this out.
Our top 5 albums of the year.
Yeah.
We've actually been planning to do for quite a while.
Yeah, so hold on to your seats, because I'm sure you're just super excited with anticipation and suspense on what albums will make our top 5. But that is not this podcast. This podcast is about comics.
Oh, it is?
It is.
Oh.
Stand-up comedians, or
You guys just ruined the vibe.
your favorite stand-ups?
No, comics.
Oh, comic books,
yes.
like superheroes.
Graphic novels.
and
Yeah.
Those
exactly,
things.
yes.
Funny books.
Which you gentlemen are far more well versed in comics than I am. I've kind of just now started to get into comics.
I used to think I knew things, but then I'll talk to some people. I'm like, wow, I don't know anything.
Then
really.
you spend 5 hours on Wikipedia
brushing up,
researching, Deadpool's life, and realize you didn't know anything.
And then you're like, man, I feel like I'm a part of Deadpool now. After,
Of course.
You get so emotionally attached to these characters. But yeah, I guess I'll let you all start with kind of what comic or
As you can
series.
see that you're pointing at me. Oh, just kind of like how we got into it.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
probably just as a kid, I was introduced to all those great '90s shows.
Yeah.
Spider-Man,
Yep.
X-Men,
Classics.
Batman, original Batman animated series, Justice League. It was like my Saturday morning.
Yeah.
If I could pry on all of those.
I guess I'm a little surprised that I didn't get into comics, because those were like my favorite shows growing up. But I don't know. I guess.
Cartoon board. I think Spider-Man was like on Fox or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like those. Like, where'd those come from? And then I go to our local comic shop, Moonlight, back when it was like by this laundromat.
Yeah.
And I go get my Pokemon cards and like a Spider-Man and an Archie.
You get your
Something like
holographic
that. Whatever my
Gyarados,
mom
and then go
would-
Yes.
get your newest issue of Amazing Spider-Man.
Whatever
Same day.
my mom would let me
Same
buy.
place.
Yeah.
Just like those look too violent. Spider-Man, he's nice, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of the thing with like why I had to
Friendly,
get Archie and
neighborhood. I mean, who wouldn't
Yeah.
want to read that?
There's some weird stuff with the clones and all that.
Yeah.
But then I guess I don't know. I kind of got more into music and stuff in like middle school, and kind of grew out of it a bit.
Mhm.
And then Jordan here sort of got me back into it when DC sort of did their big New 52 relaunch, which kind of got me back. I mean, I was kind of just checking out stuff here and there every now and again.
Was there like a definitive series or something like that kind of you were like, oh man, this is comics. I need to jump in on this.
I kind of wish there was. I guess. I mean, not as like a jumping on point so much, because I'd already kind of been in the world a little bit. I guess I would say Why the Last Man. Just kind of taught me.
Fantastic.
This is what the medium could be.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just all. I mean, the superhero stuff's great too.
Yeah.
Like, this is what the medium. Really could be. Kind of at its finest.
Oh yeah.
I guess I would say is.
I'd say Why the
sort of a
Last Man was
series.
probably the same for me, which I only read a couple months ago.
Yeah, so again, you're just kind of starting.
Yeah, I mean, I'd read the odd comic like here and there, like Scott Pilgrim.
My favorites.
I kind of flipped through like V for Vendetta and like Watchmen and stuff like that.
Watchmen is one of the best.
A handful of others I'd read here and there, but basically
sort of deconstructs the whole genre.
like here. I mean, look, or no, I think it was like Why the Last Man was definitely like what really I was like, okay, I need to start investing in comics now. But basically, my older brother loaned me, Superman Red Sun, Kingdom Come, and Blackest Night
Really good.
which I thought were all fantastic series. And then I guess that was kind of what really got me into it. And then Why the Last Man was just
Red Sun is just kind of a what if story. Like, what if Superman landed in communist Russia?
Yeah.
Instead of
the U.S. Yeah.
Good old Mom and Pa Kent.
Questions I ask at night before I go to bed. And I'm glad
somebody actually wrote.
There's actually someone that wrote and cared about that.
Oh, yeah.
But I would say for me, like Dave said, growing up as a 90s kid watching those cartoons, and they got me interested in superheroes.
Yeah.
Then probably the end of high school, beginning of college, I was rereading some graphic novels I had.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimate Spider-Man, got into that. It's a great
really
series. Then I read Guardian Devil by Kevin Smith, the director.
Yeah, believe it or not.
It got me back into Daredevil. And then Daredevil's actually starting his own monthly series at the same time, so that kind of got me back into comics.
Mm-hmm.
And then the New 52 came out just a few months after that,
it was
towards
just
the
a great
end of 2011. So that's really what got me
back on
the train.
Yeah.
So
because a lot of my problem was I was already starting to try to get into it, and I think that was your problem as well, and the problem that you're sort of that Jake is sort of having now.
I mean, for the longest time, like, because like, we go to like a comic book shop and stuff like that fairly often, and I'd be tempted to buy something, but I'm kind of just like, I don't know what's good, or like, a lot of the superhero ones are kind of like midway through or something like that, and I don't want to.
You've got a Batman issue 700.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of like,
where do I begin?
Yeah,
these characters have been around 50 to 70 years.
Yeah,
and these series have been going on. 500,
then you've got all
600
these
issues.
other one shots and miniseries, and you've got
really
the Batman 66, Batman and Robin, Batman Eternal, so on and so on. Everything.
Yeah,
it's hard to know what to get into. But luckily for me and Dave, we got kind of back into it when New 52 started. Then several months later, Marvel kind of started over as well, doing a lot of one issues. Same with Spider-Man and a few others. So,
like you were mentioning with Daredevil, though, the current series definitely got me more. I mean, I always thought the character was really cool.
Yeah,
I felt like I was one of the few kids/teenagers that actually liked Daredevil, the character.
Well, I feel like anytime you bring up Daredevil, everyone just automatically went to the Ben Affleck movie.
They think of Ben Affleck crying after Jennifer Garner dies, which I would cry too if she died.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just kind of like, that's like, that's a movie, and that was like back when the superhero movies, they just took the name of the hero and like some of the characters and did their own thing with it.
I will say, rewatching that a while back, I forgot just how good Colin Farrell was.
Yeah, really good.
The director's cut is a lot better than the theatrical cut.
Yeah,
it's like an extra
it's still kinda,
30 minutes and
cut out stuff.
Yeah, it's better than theatrical. I'm not saying it's great, but
amazing.
But me being the Daredevil fan I am, I kind of force myself to like it, even if it's hard. So I'm hoping the TV show that comes out next year will do it justice to the series.
I mean, considering the how well Marvel's been doing here lately with their movies and stuff like that,
you're not that impressed with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I actually haven't seen any Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. yet.
Yeah, from what I've seen, I'm not a big fan of. Actually, DC's doing a lot better on the TV shows.
Yeah, it's really like Arrow from first season I've seen of that, and
I'm not loving this season so much, but
I've not watched season 3 yet.
I'm liking Flash more than I thought.
Flash is really good.
Flash is a lot better than I thought.
I'll have to start watching that then.
Gotham started out. It's
getting
sort of better.
I kind of gave up on it.
It's not great by any means.
Yeah,
I'm liking.
I don't even know if it's good, but
yeah,
that's what you were saying.
It's average.
Should I get back into it?
It's
still. It's better.
It's good enough. It's good enough to keep me on the fence to where I can DVR it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I almost stayed on just for David Zayas, but I can't do it. Those of you who don't know, played Angel Batista and Dexter.
Yes, Dexter.
Big Dexter. And there was a Dexter comic that was written by the guy who wrote the books. It was okay. I don't think I kept up with the first mini series. They did another.
Then they have one where he's in Australia. I read a few issues of that, but it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Then I think he's kind of done
as good
with
as
the show.
Yeah. But
I read the first book and part of the second one, but I don't know. I think it's one of those rare instances where the book wasn't as good.
Because it doesn't seem like we're kind of in this age where, like, I guess comic book material, whether it be like actual comic book themselves, but just it's a kind of more of a social norm. I guess with just the popularity of like again, mostly with Marvel and how well they're doing with their movies, is a lot of people are kind of starting to look more into like comics and stuff like that, and then DC with their TV shows.
Cool
yeah,
I mean, like it's always been popular, obviously, but with its own,
a bit more of an underground thing.
Yeah, but now it's kind of more like more people are kind
mainstream.
A bit more knowledgeable because 10 years ago, hardly anybody knew who Thor was unless you were like a comic book reader.
I think it did kind of start with our generation though, with those cartoons.
Yeah,
that's how everybody gets introduced to it. I know, and Kyle Higgins, one of the guys who was, I think he was doing Nightwing when they relaunched. DC did their big relaunch. He's on the Batman Beyond book now.
Mm-hmm.
Was just talking about that's kind of how he got. He was a big fan
He's
of
a young
Batman
guy
Beyond.
too. He's still in his 20s, right?
Yeah, so was Scott Snyder, who's on. I think he might be early 30s. Jeff Johns is pretty young too for as big as.
I think a lot of people,
big as he is at DC,
a lot of people like comic book heroes and the movies. They aren't into reading them. And I think with this big boom we've seen the last 10, 15 years, people are getting back into reading or even start reading for the first time. But even as popular as they are, I still don't think comics are.
No, I mean,
it's not as much as it was 30, 40 years ago.
The actual comic book sales,
people actually reading,
kind of dropping off.
And also they keep raising the prices here every 5, 10 years. Because I remember when we first started reading the New 52, a lot of them were $3, and now pretty much every series you buy is going to be $4.
Some of DC stuff is still
not the big one, not the big series though.
Seller like I noticed like Catwoman, Batwoman, Constantine.
I think Green Lantern is still $3.
Might be, or one of the New Guardians, or one of the.
But overall,
not main books, or like Justice League.
Just about every Marvel series. I think every Marvel series is $4. So
even to get Batman, Superman, Justice League, all that stuff's $4.
Yeah.
And then you get the annuals that are like $5 or $6.
I think that contributes as well as to people not wanting to buy, weekly or even monthly.
You're gonna pay $5 for 22, 23 pieces.
Some
of paper.
people like to just wait for the trade
paperback
to come out.
I think that actually does make sense to wait for the trades, just because. I guess with like some of the individual issues, and I guess part of the problem that I'm having right now with the George Martin adaptation comics that I'm reading, House of the Worm.
No, Game of Thrones, just to specify. It's
the same guy that did Game of Thrones, but
this isn't Game of Thrones.
Yeah, no, but basically like it's only like 4 issues in, maybe 5, and I'm up to like issue 3. And it's not horrible, but there's just not enough going on, and like there's not a whole lot of character development, and so I'm kind of tempted. It's like I don't like the
Yeah, I mean different things.
It's like I want to keep up with the series because I do feel like it has potential to be really good. I mean, just based on Game of Thrones alone, some of the best character development I've seen in any book or series of any kind. But at the same time, I've kind of had to like push myself to finish just one issue. So it is kind of that thing where it's like, do I really want to invest, even if it is just like $4 on a comic that you might not like, especially for a first issue, because it's the first issue is not going to be that great. It's kind of like a pilot episode of a TV show.
Yeah, you gotta give it. But even still, you can. I guess there's some first episodes and first issues are really good.
Yeah.
And leave you wanting more, but then I always try to give things another extra chance, whether it be TV or
you at least give them 3.
Especially if it's something where you kind of either you like the writer, you like the character, or whatever. Give it a little bit more chance, but
which I mean, again, I am starting to get more familiar with some of these bigger, names and comic book authors and illustrators and stuff like that.
Sometimes even issue 2, it's like your episode 2, they get right past the introductory stuff, and then you're just right into the meat of the story. And then others, I guess, like this George Martin series, are kind of slowly getting on their feet, or
hopefully
maybe it's just not.
Again, I want to be pleasantly surprised because just again I just bought the 4th issue today, so I'll try and read that here shortly, and hopefully issue 4 will be good enough to where I'll get issue 5, and then, but I'd say by the time like if 5 hasn't piqued my interest any further, I'll probably just
like I was saying, give it a story arc.
Yeah.
That's a good thing about comics these days. There's a lot of miniseries coming out that's good intros for characters that you may want to discover even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Jordan here turned me on to a new Hobgoblin miniseries, which I think is just 3 issues.
Wish it was more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it's a really interesting thing about
the
Hobgoblin
original,
the original Hobgoblin sort of going mainstream. Because, again, going back to how long these characters have been around, 50, 60 years, it's not just one person in the mask, which is another confusing thing for somebody coming in, too, because you're like, I thought that Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's Dr. Octopus.
Spider-Verse will change
but it's in his body.
Totally.
And it's Spidey 2099. Yeah, I feel like it'd be a really bad time to jump in on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Give it a few months and then maybe
wait
check
till I get
again.
back to the normal thing. I do find it kind of annoying that it's all just sort of building up these huge crossovers that sort of really have no.
So they all gonna just cross over and blow up pretty much. That's what I'm kind of
they're not
the
that
vibe.
big. Like they're not that big a deal because they want to make these cataclysmic events. There'll be another one in like a couple months.
That was one thing that I like about the Darth Maul miniseries. I think all this
series.
Yeah, I've been trying to get more into Star Wars.
Because again, Darth Maul is such a badass character and completely underutilized in the film. Like he had like one line of dialogue, like really awesome, but again, it was just like he didn't actually die, but basically just defeated.
I was always really confused about that, but I think like you were saying, as long as you just go with the premise that he's still alive, you can enjoy it.
But then in the miniseries, he's basically waging war with like the Sith, and he's teamed up with like the Mandalorians and like his own criminal syndicate. So it's like, they I mean, I would actually like him to like continue that more. Which I get the problem with that is it would go against the continuity, but I'd be fine if they were just kind of like, we're gonna change the continuity just for the sake of this story, and he's gonna, I don't know, continue raging war against the Sith or something like that. I think that'd be pretty cool.
It's the good thing with Marvel now; they're gonna start releasing more Star Wars series. A Star Wars series that takes place after Episode 4, New Hope. Yeah, and Princess
Darth
Leia.
Maul. Not Darth Maul, Darth Vader.
Yeah, Darth Vader
and Princess Leia for sure. And maybe a few others that.
Yeah, I heard
like a Boba Fett or Jango Fett.
Yeah,
Han Solo
series.
Just like that.
Thought he had Rebel Heist or something.
Yeah, but I think Marvel, since they've gotten the rights back to Star Wars again, are kind of gonna start throwing some series out towards the beginning of the year.
Yeah, it seems like Marvel's doing a lot better than just putting all kinds of stuff out.
And also, really good timing since the new Star Wars movie's coming out next year, which
has something to do with it.
Yeah,
can't wait.
Oh yeah, like
trailer comes out Friday.
Woo!
In certain theaters,
which is not in Kentucky. I looked at the list.
No, it's just major cities.
The closest city's Nashville. So
damn it.
I'll go there for a music show. I'm not driving to see a movie that I can see here.
A 90-second preview.
Yeah. And I'd tell you,
I could just look up online like the next day.
Yeah, the following day. Yeah.
If not a couple hours after the first show.
But yeah, because I'm starting to kind of get more into the, I guess, extended Star Wars universe, like through the comics and stuff like that.
Confusing but entertaining.
Yeah, because I've heard that like a lot of the comics and the novels are like way better than any of the movies. Like the different Jedis, like the Jedis with like the yellow lightsabers are basically like the Black Ops of the Jedi Order. It's like I would like to see a series about that. Where basically
lightsaber colors, and it's pretty much the rainbow.
And then of course
not just the ones you saw, which I hope they'll do in the new movies.
Yeah.
Maybe touch on that a bit more rather than all you see is just the green blue, pink. Another red. Well,
that's just like the Sith.
Yeah, that's a Sith.
Yeah. Like that doesn't really signify anything aside from just I would assume if you see someone wielding a red lightsaber, it's like, okay, he's evil. I'll stay away from him, or maybe try your luck if you're cocky enough or good enough. But yeah. that's one thing that I'm kind of looking forward to, is kind of delving further into the Star Wars lore, because I've been a fan of Star Wars since a kid, as most people are. But I feel like the movies, as good as they are, mostly the original trilogy, there's still so much that they can.
That's why the
cover.
expanded universe just goes on from Luke all the way to his offspring and so forth. And then even a few years ago, they started a comic series, Dawn of the Jedi, which brings the Jedi basically to life. So
and I saw that
starts all the way from the dawn till never ending, basically.
Yeah, well, I look in the back of some of the books I've read, and we'll have the whole timeline. I'm like, 1,000 years.
The first
Jedi,
even back when Yoda was a young guy.
Yeah, whatever. Before
seems crazy to
A
think.
New Hope.
Yeah.
Got like the first big Sith guy, or Darth Bane, and like the origins of the Sith. Even.
But even the origins of the Sith was
way before.
Really awesome.
1,500 years before Episode 1, or before the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Before
all the major events.
And also, I guess, like with most comics, they're pretty much always going to be canon. Because like some series, like I was talking to a friend. They're like real big into like the Sonic the Hedgehog series. But apparently, I didn't really play the games that much, but apparently they're just horrible games now. Like they don't know what direction to take them in. But apparently the comics are, they're canon. They're like way better than most of the games. I'd say that's the same thing with a lot of other series. They're like maybe based on like a game or a movie or something like that. They're canon, so they kind of rectify a lot of the mistakes that they made in, I don't know, maybe a TV show that they're based off of, or a movie or something like that. So, we encourage you guys to start reading comics more, if you haven't already.
You got any recommendations? Put them in the comments.
I mean, obviously, Why the Last Man.
Series you'd like us to talk about more in depth?
Yeah, maybe current series we're reading.
Yeah. Just talked about the Hobgoblin thing.
Yeah, Hobgoblin.
And I've been a bit out of the loop lately, just because I don't want to pay a bunch of money and spend like $30 a week and stuff trying to keep up with all these series. But it does help, especially money wise. The little mini series and stuff you can kind of pick up. It's like I don't have to keep up with this forever.
Also, if you're a big fan of just like graphic novels, just go to your local library. So they've got a lot. Usually a big.
I didn't know that for a long time.
Nice selection of graphic novels, and
a lot of times it's random stuff, but they'll have
you still got
full
a good
series sometimes.
Good amount of DC and Marvel books are there, so that's always good to jump in before you want to commit to buying a monthly series.
Oh yeah.
But I just like when so I'm currently reading Lock and Key, which is really good.
I've heard good things. Still haven't gotten on that one.
Especially like binge read volumes 3 and 4, because like the first 2 are good, but basically 3, that's what really I was just like, oh my god, this is awesome. So I basically read like volumes 3 and 4 in maybe 2 hours time, and I think there's like almost 10 volumes, so I'm gonna try and binge read those, and then probably do a review on my channel. So because I'm sure you all are just aching to hear my thoughts and opinions on things.
Put it in the comments.
Yeah.
Also, Daredevil, as we've already mentioned, is a
really good
current
Mark
series.
Waid.
Great writer.
Great writer if you want to follow any of his stuff.
Batman right now is really good.
Scott Snyder, he jumped in right before they were launched.
Yeah, Snyder's been a big
Snyder
part
and Kyle
of the
Higgins
New 52.
did a series called Gates of Gotham, which I thought was really good, which is kind of just about the history of the city and the significance of like the Wayne families and the Cobblepot family and stuff that I wish the Gotham TV show would maybe delve into more than just sort of being this is what Kid Bruce Wayne was doing.
I think if Gotham, the show, was a little more in tune with the comics, I think more people would enjoy them. I know that we would. I think so.
Yeah.
Like, can't really decide which way they want to be, and then a lot of stuff doesn't make sense. Like, why are all his villains around and so much older than he is?
Yeah.
Like, why is Catwoman training him?
And usually, in most comic books, Catwoman's much, much younger than Bruce. She's a few years older than him on the show. I can see why they did it, but
except them being a little bit closer in age.
Yeah.
Not like she was there when his parents got murdered.
Yeah. No, she's just chilling because I'm an orphan and I'm 15. I'm just hanging out in this alley. Oh, look, Bruce Wayne's parents are dying.
Like, come on, you're an orphan. Like, trying to save people. Yeah.
She could have been Annie instead of Catwoman.
Yeah, exactly.
But also,
Yeah,
I try to pick up.
Not great.
Yeah.
The writing is. Yeah.
I try to pick up a Star Wars series here and there.
Yeah,
Darth Maul was the last one.
Lately.
Yeah. That's what we do.
Whatever. We're not professional.
No. Anything
Then
but.
Any good Marvel series or DC series I want to pick up, Flash was okay. Green Lantern's not bad. And usually some other Batman series. Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Batman Eternal.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
Dark Knight, Detective Comics. There's so many that any Batman fan would enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, especially with just so many characters there. Even with the superheroes, or even if you want to read other stuff that's not, there are plenty of non-superhero comics that much like Y or Ex Machina or Scalped or
which
just go to a comic shop.
Yeah.
There's whole sections. There's stuff that's not superheroes, but
yeah,
I suppose.
And more than likely, the local comic book owner person will give you great recommendations.
Generally, those people know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
usually.
Because I went in there about a month ago, just like what are some good new series to that you'd recommend, and basically the guy was just kind of like, yes. It's like, all right, follow me. Just like kind of show me around. It's like, that one's good. This is
chances are you're not going to be bugging them either. Like they want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's more business for them too. You get somebody who actually wants to come in there and get involved in stuff.
Because the
industry needs.
Mentioned that guy's just like just now starting to get into comics.
New fans,
What are some recommendations? And I mentioned that not to say I dislike the superhero ones, but just the fact that they get relaunched every so often. I was like, I want to try to maybe stick to I guess some of the more one-off superhero comics or something like that, or just new series in general to start with.
I mean, there can be I guess a great series by Mark Waid called Irredeemable. There's a companion book called Incorruptible. It is about superheroes, but it's not your typical superhero book written in the sort of way that Marvel and DC books will be written. It's a bit more adult. And the basic premise is, what if Superman just got fed up one day and felt unappreciated and just decided to kill everybody?
Which I think is awesome.
Yeah, it's the basic premise to that. It's about superheroes, but it's not really... It's not written in the way that a Batman, Spider-Man, Superman...
Of course,
Captain America
When's that movie coming out?
I mean...
2017?
I think that's actually a really... that's a really awesome premise for Superman, just because, I think if I was if I had Superman's powers... I get, not wanting to kill people, because, I get that. But at the same time, if you're Superman, you can be essentially
you gotta kill
everywhere.
At least one of your enemies.
Yeah.
What's the point of having the powers?
You're not going to
kill at least one person.
Yeah. It's basically a slap on the wrist. It's like, oh, Lex Luthor, you crazy guy, trying to take over the world again.
Next time.
And
don't do it again.
I'm going to kill you one day. I'm going to find a way to kill you. I won't kill you.
If I were Superman, I would basically
kill your family.
Take Lex Luthor or some well-known villain and just be like, okay, this guy's evil. I'm going to laser his face off. This is what will happen if you do evil things.
So I don't see why Superman just doesn't throw everybody in the Phantom Zone.
Do something like that.
Or just have Liam Neeson be Superman.
Yeah, or Liam Neeson. I'd be fine with that, even if he's in his 60s.
Talking about killing people.
Yeah,
Liam
their
Neeson,
families.
Bryan Cranston is Lex Luthor.
Yeah. Just do
That's the Superman movie I want to see.
I mean, how would you not given the temptation if you're Superman to just make examples of people, even if you're. I mean, I would be insanely bored. So it's just that guy's robbing a bank. Not on my watch. Zoom in, just karate chop his head off. It's like, don't rob a bank, kids. And just bam. No one's gonna commit crimes.
That's what makes Superman a role model for children. He doesn't kill.
Well, he needs again. I get that.
He's the best of us.
He needs to kill people just every so often. Make an example. It's like, okay, I can't make my point clear enough. Do not do any kind of crime. I will karate chop your head off or laser your face off. Something that will be very painful and gruesome. Don't do it.
Seeing how passionate you are about this, just the concept alone, I highly recommend you pick up Irredeemable.
I'll have to.
It's a great series.
If after this podcast you don't do it, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And then Incorruptible is kind of the flip side of that, his arch nemesis called Max Damage. Not a very Lex Luthor. He's like a biker-looking guy.
Huh. Jax Teller?
Yeah, a Jax Teller type.
Okay.
For all you Sons of Anarchy fans out there, he basically turns good, but not. I mean, it's not just that automatic light switch. Like, oh, he's bad. I'm going to be good now. Yeah. It's kind of the apocalypse has kind of happened. Yeah. And somebody's got to stand up and do something.
I do kind of like.
Yeah, it's not even just like, oh, I'm going to be a good guy now. It's roles are sort of reversed. Like, not really good, but somebody has to fight this guy.
Yeah. That is kind of one thing that I did like about Kingdom Come, though, is Superman was a bit more
gray area.
Yeah, where he's just kind of like, all right, you kids need to calm down.
Another
it's
kind of like series.
Yeah,
by the way.
Basically the younger generation of superheroes who defeated all the villains basically were just bored and started fighting each other and causing mayhem.
Yeah.
So basically, Superman rounded up the your classic heroes like Batman and Wonder Woman's like, all right,
Batman was against it initially.
Well, yeah, but eventually he gets the gang back together. It's kind of like, all right, you guys are gonna settle down. We're going to come in and just beat the shit out of you. It's kind of like, what are you going to do, Superman? It's like, oh, I thought you'd never ask. And just almost a war breaks out. So I thought that was
I just want these to become movies.
Yeah.
After listening to your all's descriptions. So.
Yeah. Like, I would.
Yeah, they really would be great. I don't know what I know they've been trying to make a Why the Last Man movie forever, but I'm kind of glad it's because Shia LaBeouf was attached to it forever.
Yeah.
And I think Ex Machina, and then Grant Moore, great comic writer. I mean, he's written plays and stuff too. He's written books. Grant Morrison, Scottish guy, has one of the most amazing accents. I could listen to that guy read the phone book, literally voices. But anyway, great writer.
All right, enough with the man cry.
Sorry, I respect him.
Okay.
It's not gay.
But if it were, it'd be out of respect.
Yeah,
though.
yeah, but if he wanted, okay, that's another podcast.
That's the Bruce Dickinson podcast.
Yeah,
exactly.
Being gay out of respect.
Well, like Jake was saying earlier, I think going to your local comic book shop and asking the owners for series,
just even the people working there.
Yeah, people working there for good series to jump into, and also I think a lot of people want to read about superheroes when they first start out, and then you can maybe broaden out and get into the non-superhero things. But
or even if you just have, I mean, there's so many different comics. You have things that you're interested in.
I think a lot of people that don't really know much about comics think it's all superheroes. Just superheroes.
Yeah,
your Batman, Superman, Spider-Man.
Like if you like horror stuff, there are tons of horror comics, and
plenty of Stephen King stuff to get into.
Vampire, kind of the American Vampire by Scott Snyder is really good. There's more fantasy-based stuff, like you were saying with the George Martin.
Yeah.
There's even there's even comic books based on the TV shows. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is still going. Even Smallville has like a season 11 comic.
Game of Thrones even has a comic that, from what I've skimmed through, it seems pretty verbatim to the books.
Talking about the Dexter comics. They're all kinds of genres, even fantasy stuff.
The TV show Castle has its own series too.
Like, but it's kind of like the rule now, where like if anything exists, more than likely there's a comic version of it somewhere out in this world.
There's Transformers. I mean, there's sci-fi stuff.
The list goes on and on. So.
Yeah, any genre that there is, there's a comic for it.
Yeah, pretty much. So
you don't have to just read the superheroes, or when you can. I mean, there are lots of people that just don't read the superheroes.
That's what got me into comic books was just the superheroes. Then I discovered other series along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I've just kind of followed writers that I like.
Yeah, that's another good thing to do, I think.
So this guy wrote whatever,
so like
wrote whatever.
With Ultimate Spider-Man, for me, Brian Michael Bendis, I loved his writing on that series. So got me interested in reading other things that he's done.
Oh yeah.
So I think following writers is a good thing to do.
Just started on like the PlayStation Network or whatever, the Powers show. They've been trying to get developed forever.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna wrap this up since it's running a bit lengthy here. I think we covered a lot of good ground here. Yeah. Any closing statements, gentlemen, before we wrap this up?
Yeah. Read comics.
Maybe.
There you go.
If you want.
Short answers, but to the point.
It's a great inaugural podcast with Jordan.
Thank you guys. Hope you will have me on again in the future.
No, never.
We've already stated at the beginning we're going to have you on.
Well, after that one, hopefully you guys will.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so till next, everybody. Cheers.